Hey fellas, well, we are now 1 week away from the release of Pokemon Sword and Shield, the official 8th generation of mainline Pokemon games, games which have a whole new region to explore, a wide array of new Pokemon, and allow us to be the first experience to be part of the main series or be purely developed with home consoles and from the ground up on new hardware. So why are so many people still skeptical rather than excited? So this comes off very similar to a video I did last year with Sony Pokemon Let's Go, and looking back at it, it's actually not that different. I mean, since this open letter will definitely not be addressing too much of the controversy that's erupted since then, but I'm going to be conducting myself somewhat objectively here, so let's get started. While I am very open about my enthusiasm for this game, as I was before, or a lot more people seem to be more divided on this issue than ever. I mean, so while this is going to be similar to the video I did last year starting Let's Go, there will be some differences as in this case from my case from there, given how there are similar issues, but not the exact same ones. I know for most of the videos I've been doing about this game, how these games, I may have just gotten more views if I just joined their bandwagon, but let's be honest here. For all the so-called accusations about developers being lazy, that kind of mentality is actually just as, if not more so, than how they're approaching these. So let's get to it. Again, we've got the usual complaints, Haynes, about how, again, changing the experience of the gameplay to make it user friendly, why they're still relying so much on the old generations instead of focusing on things like Sinnoh, how and asking why they didn't try and do something in the vein of Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild, Wild, or even try and farm the game out to another developer. Well, it's definitely, I would submit, there's easy answers to all these questions right off the bat. And I mean, again, the question surrounding Sin I've submitted before is much like Home was, not if, but rather when. And based on what I'm seeing so far with these leaks, which I'm not going to be addressing in this video, by the way, and need more information to corroborate them, it seems that it definitely could happen this console generation. And I mean, since, and it's a simple game, would you rather for the user or content. I mean, like, would you rather that every feature was in there all at once, or would you rather that they had enough in there for the game to work, and then with more content being set out for contingencies, which they have put out? How the idea that they're not going to have any of these a mistranslation they keep trying to use, and actually they have admitted they are trying to reach a similar audience to Mario Odyssey Breath of the Wild. In fact, the Wild area in particular is comparable to one of the areas in Breath of the Wild, which I really enjoy on both the Wii U and the Switch. As for the whole farming hanging out to someone else, I once again ask this as a counter her point. Do the words Hotel Mario mean anything to you? How about Zelda Wand of Gamelon, Zelda's Adventure: Link: The Face of Evil? Exactly. There's no way, hey, that Nintendo is ever going to let someone else within 500 yards of one of the Golden Boys ever again like that. Hmm. I know this may not be a popular thing for me to say, for anyone to say that matter, but I generally believe that the safest hands for the series are still their own. Yep. I mean, I named other developers who had worked on the series before, but generally it was never in this capacity, nor or was it with something of this scale. You know, they all had different ideas and different ways of having what they want to do. I mean, which is the same for any series. Like, say, and those tends to use much results in general whenever they try and have a developer other than the main ones work on a series. Like, say, Sonic, for example. Sonic Mania, as well as Sonic Mania Plus, end up being some of the best, more interesting series in years compared to the more mixed reception that Forces got from their usual developers. Whereas, on the other, her Sonic Boom as a lyric ended up being a total mess, which even when someone's trying to stay optimistic about it, even I could not really get that much out of it. Though I admit the TV show was decent overall, and was at least marginally better than Sonic 06 was. Has been and and also same deal with Metroid. And after the little experiments that Team Ninja did, and also even with Metroid Prime 4's development originally being handled by Namco Bandai, I they realized that they wouldn't be putting out something they would want to play anymore than their fans would, so that's why they went back to square one with Retro Studios. But even that's not going to be exactly the same given how several developers that were the original trilogy are no longer working at the company, or even worse, no longer alive, sadly. And which, and also on the delay arguments, not every game has this luxury, and I find it odd that bringing this up given how they never really found the need to complain about this development schedule before with previous installments, so why they decided to pull the card with this one is something I legitimately do not understand. In fact, much like that infamous extra credits video, I'm actually astonished how sometimes all these inconsistencies people don't spot their own arguments. Hmm. As with before, I'm not going to be addressing anyone who's been making these skeptical claims by name, nor will I be trying to persuade anyone. I will, however, just merely be trying to see whether or not this whole method of dealing with this process is going to be actually that necessary in the long run. Since it's not going to be exactly the same method as I did last year with Let's Go, but I will start off by emphasizing that even with the accusations given how with Let's Go as well as the release of the original games on Virtual Console on 3DS, I still submit that re-releasing or remaking an existing game is not the same as developing an entirely new one from whole cloth. And as for the arguments about the animations being reused, that has been debunked now numerous times, and again, and if that actually was the case, I guarantee you it would not nearly. It would actually look a lot worse than describing. You cannot simply dump the raw content from one platform onto another without accounting for the differences between them. It doesn't work like that. That's even when you in the older days of consoles when you ported an arcade game game to a console, you very rarely got the exact same experience as you did in the arcades. Like some people tried to compress the arcade stuff into the home version, which didn't really work out as well. As opposed, but other developers had the right idea to basically he rewrite the game itself to work on the consoles being ported to, like how with Ninja Turtles 2 didn't have all the foreplay capabilities or visuals of the arcade game, but it still was pretty fun overall. All given how it not only added some features actually weren't in the arcade game, like how they replaced the Bebop Rocksteady fight with Baxter stopping his fly form, as well as added things like the Frozen Central Park, as well as the Foot Dojo with New Bushnell's Tora and Shogun. And that's just how the NES version of Double Dragon, I actually remember a lot more than the arcade version, and which definitely tells you something about my age, but I get ahead of myself. As I explained before, I genuinely believe that they definitely want to take the time they need to make sure that what they're putting out is good, rather than just trying to make money off the name alone and rush things out and put out a buggy, glitch-ridden mess, such as the recent situation with WWE 2K20, where that was riddled with so many glitches that it's actually pretty hilarious. Yes, and as I pointed out before, developing for a pure handheld console or a pure home console is simply not the same as developing for one that combines the two into one. And they want to make sure what they're putting out can work if you're just playing it on your TV screen as well as if you're just playing it on a portable. Well, especially given how there's also, like with the 2DS coming out not long before X and Y did, 2013, and the Switch Mini also just came out, which has a similar kind of selling points. It's like a good entry point for younger players or those who want a cheaper option and for a lower point of entry. And those who don't really care about the hybrid aspect of the system just want like a pure handheld console, given how it's like a solid piece of original Game Boy and I submit the question, and again, will be more when than if in regards to Sinnoh and given what's being put out. So, and even with all that I hear about how trying to who and who go after online fees as well as posts that aren't actually related to the games themselves, and just in general, just letting what they've already heard, not just deliberately choosing not to get excited, and as opposed to me just keeping your expectations ebb. Again, part of it is smart, but given how it was on a Guzma tweet that one of these consoles made, it basically gives me one my perfect rebuttal to these people doing that. In his words, y'all are stupid. Yeah, I've mentioned this before, but it definitely bears repeating. Quantity of a game's content does not equal quality of that content, and you cannot simply throw more money and development at something and have it magically work. It does not work that way. As people like Activision and Konami, especially EA, are still trying to resist this lesson. And however, as it's happened with how series like Guitar Hero and Tony Hawk have petered out, as well as how other ones like Infinite Warfare have ended up being not what fans of Call of Duty wanted, and to the point that had to really reevaluate subsequent entries based on that one and not performing as well. And also the infamous Anthem earlier this year being, I think, could be used as an example, as a typical example of how not to launch a game franchise in this day and age. And I also acknowledge that for every follow up to a game series that works, or reversion like Mario Maker 2 or the Link's Awakening remake, we get multiple ones like Contra Road Core or Metal Gear Survive or again Infinite Warfare or something like 2006, and I really don't think it'll be as bad as any of those, to be honest, with these ones coming out at all. And sometimes also realism of visuals does not always equal quality of visuals, like how people pointed out how to like the fourth Yokai Watch game for its realism, only for the game itself to have 6 months delay, still have a choppier frame rate than some of my PS1 games did. And as for Zelda, another game that got kind of heat before release was Wind Waker, her, where many thought the more cel shaded art style would be a disaster compared to more realistic style Ocarina of Time as well as Mask. Yet, when that game came out, everyone was basically forced to eat humble pie when it turned out to be not only good, but in fact excellent. I mean, it's personally my favorite game ever. It's one of my favorite entries in the entire series, to the point where the 2013 remaster on Wii U didn't have to change that much in order to make it in HD for new generation. And so, and as for this next part here, and regarding the Pokedex, which I have been resisting addressing for ages, as I'll simply say this now. Every time I hear people complain about how the having access to all the favorite monsters out of the box, I look back at playing Ruby and Sapphire when they first launched, and I, much like Buster Scruggs meme, I say like James Franco, first time. Yeah. As I pointed out before, Sinnoh, that'll most likely be coming out after these new titles. I mean, if the information I'm getting is potentially accurate, and I'm not gonna be sounding any alarm bells either, or given how there are not fewer ways of getting any characters back than before. There are actually more, given the penchant for all these distribution events and DLC that's going to be given us for free, as well as the mobile app coming in 2020, which I think is going to be the real key to all this. I mean, and while I'm well aware this is not a popular thing to say, hey, but as someone who actually has developed, has taken classic game design for this actually does make sense from just about every single angle I can look at it from, because when and the people involved designed this game, they designed it to be actually playable when it comes out, as in, and not launching in like a broken and mess that takes months to actually just get working, as well as actually having your people just applaud you for by adding basic things that always should have been in there. Hello, oh Fallout 76. And even though I'm not the biggest Fallout fan, I have to admit that's a mess, and a way more blatant reuse of assets, given how my first reaction to that was still, how does that look worse than Fallout 4, even New Vegas? I mean, seriously, I'm still reeling from that. And it's especially astonishing given how a lot of the downvotes actually were more than titles that arguably deserved, or that more for even more controversial decisions, such as Shenmue 3's PC port being exclusive to the Epic Game Store, which I'm still astonished does not have something as simple as a shopping cart, which virtually every other digital storefront I've seen has, whether it's official or not. That's actually astonishing. And and the graphical stuff is never going to bother me, given how I still play a lot of games from the 8-bit, 16-bit days, as well as early years of 3D. And I just don't mind the style they went with at all. Oh, given how, and the voice acting. While even with in games that did include like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, they still made the right call by keeping the protagonist themselves just basically silent apart from occasional chirp, like a yell when Link swings a sword or a Yahoo whenever Mario does something cool. And I think having like a cipher her kind of protagonist is actually kind of interesting given how I don't think I'll be portraying the male avatar the same kind of snooty reserved one. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm gonna name him in my games. I'm I'm pondering maybe Scamander for sword and Samwise for shield. I even though people probably just be disappointed it didn't make hey the female avatar canonically Scottish, though it still has left many amusing videos, such as turning into like the Scotsman Samurai Jack or the Dead Man Team Fortress 2. So while I could easily choose to be just as disappointed as others, I'm not going to take that route. I am choosing to actually enjoy what I've been given. I mean, honestly, people who try to accuse who's a company of quote unquote pandering just for including certain special forms seem to be willfully not acknowledging how happy people are to have like the thick Pikachu and the floofy Eevee back, and how basically the ones with Charizard and Butterfree look kind of like Godzilla and Mothra. I wonder who would represent King Ghidorah and Rodon here, as pointed out before. And the long Meowth kind of almost the wacky label inflatable unfilling tube man as before. I'm gonna think an opt into that DLC as soon as I get a chance to. And it's not just a memory is talking. I genuinely think that it's a nice way of appealing towards older players. I mean, so no realignment is necessary at all. It's kind of like how even with the changes they made in Mario Odyssey, they still have the 2D sections. Or even though they really reworked the controls of the Link's Awakening remake, they still kept the mini game where you get a Yoshi toy for one of the citizens of the island, as well as take the Chain Chomp for a walk, which, as was inspired by Miyamoto's creation, was naturally a big dog that used to live where he did in Japan. And so, I dare say I'm getting off track, but I better start wrapping this up. As I pointed out before, I've never really associated with the more her polarizing statements of the fandom, and I am not going to start this now. Oh. So, and again, I submit that pre-orders are not always indicative of sales numbers either. They're not exactly the same thing. And I mean, I think in many ways maybe having the opposite effect that we're going for. Rather than trying to claim that they're going to get buried in sales, I don't know if any people actually are buying multiple copies. But it's my first time I pre-ordered a twin pack. I'll definitely get to that in a moment. If you can tell what I'm doing here, but I will also say this. Yes, I mean, kind of like what happened in the case of movies with Joker, the Streisand effect is very much in play, in which it might be getting that blue ocean of new fans, but not quite the way I was expecting. Think, in a way, I don't think they're going to be blocking anything, so to speak, but this is basically given and the company free promotion that could not be otherwise bought. It might be part of the reason why they haven't really said as much anything as in the past. What can be bought, however, is the game. So, in 1 week, I'll be picking my pre-orders. I've been keeping this one particularly safe. I've only been really putting it in this case until very late now. And I definitely could have easily just joined in their little stunts, but to be honest, I definitely have seen this mentality many times before, and to know the difference between people who actually have legitimate criticisms with how this is being handled, and people who are just getting up in arms because not everything they want is going to be revealed right away. I mean, personally, I like to have a little bit of mystery behind stuff, and I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. There's enough of that as is, so instead, what I'm doing is in these worn out shoes, and definitely, given how my usual sign off phrase would not be as powerful as normally would be, I'll definitely say this. If you are with me on this, I'm not going to try to switch your arms, but if you're with me, you know where to find me. And before you know it, type wild. Follow your dreams.